So I have bought a total of 39 cars. Now that sounds pretty ridiculous, but I have a ton of experience buying cars. Now I'm 29 years old. I just had to shave my face for something I'm working on, so I look 10 years old. I'm 29, bought 39 cars. I have come to learn every trick in the book from car dealerships, and I want to do an extensive breakdown on everything to know when going to buy a car, whether it is your first time buying, whether it's your fifth time buying, whether you've been buying cars for 20 years, there should be an ounce of information in here that can help you get the best deal on your car and not waste your time with dealerships, because there's so many factors. I sat for an hour typing out multiple 3-4 pages worth of information that I've learned over the years about car buying. And I'm talking on the spectrum of I've bought cars when I could not afford to buy cars like this that are $7 grand, $8 grand. I've also bought cars at the level of $300,000, $350,000. So I've seen every end of the spectrum and how dealers treat you differently when you're buying these cars versus cheaper cars and everything like that. So let's go ahead and start breaking down. This is gonna be a bit longer of a video, but it is going to be very in-depth and just something that you guys can write down, take notes and everything for when you're buying your next car to make sure you save money and do not let the dealers take advantage of you. Step one is you wanna buy a car. Now, the biggest mistake that I think people can make is just walking straight into a dealership without any idea what kind of car they wanna buy or have any idea what model, anything of that nature. To me, the first thing to do is to start your research online. You can use any sort of website, cars.com, AutoTrader, AutoTempest, there's all kinds. I use AutoTrader and I like to go on there and kind of break it down. If you watch one of my last videos where I was shopping for a car, you can see kind of my process on that. They have a nice thing, you can do a range between 50 miles, 100 miles, anywhere. Now, when most people are buying just a car that's gonna be your everyday car, I would limit it to 50 to 100 miles of where you are to where you're searching. Now, when I'm buying cars like this, I make it nationwide. This car was shipped from California. It's an added cost. It costs $2,000 to ship it from California, but most people won't have to experience that because you can find what you're looking for at a local dealer. This is going into territory of like looking for a specific model, color, and everything like that. Now, obviously you want to come up with an idea of what kind of car you want. Do you want a sedan? Do you want a crossover? Do you want an SUV? Most people will have an idea of what they need based off of their everyday needs. So if you're taking a lot, you have kids or whatever, you need a minivan, you should know that information. So once you have a general idea of what kind of model you want, then it's the time to start researching brands. Now, of course, you're probably gonna wanna go into a dealer and start test driving models so you can get an idea of what you like. But before you do that, first try to research those models online and kind of narrow it down to what you think will make sense and in your price range. That is a big part of this, is make sure you're realistic with your price range and what you can afford, if you're gonna be able to buy cash or if you're gonna finance or lease. Have an idea of what your budget is and make sure that you stay firm on that budget, and don't be trying to shop for something that is $10,000, $20,000 more than you can afford. There's a lot of helpful tips online for trying to research how much a car payment should be, how much you can afford for a car, and I would definitely advise looking into that. But it's like buying a house before going and researching and buying cars. So you narrowed it down to, let's say, 3 cars, an Audi A5, a BMW 3 Series, and then let's say a Toyota Corolla. I don't know, those are totally different ranges, whatever. Let's say you narrow it down to those 3. If you at this point have never driven those types of cars, never experienced them, it is a good idea to go ahead and test drive them to make sure you want the car. Again, instead of just going into the dealership before you do this, my opinion, the best thing that you can do is to first reach out via the phone, via email to the dealership about a car you're inquiring about. So let's say you have those 3 in mind, have an idea of a color, have an idea of if you want new, used, and go ahead and reach out to the dealership, give them a call, get in touch with a sales associate and be like, hey, look, I am narrowing it down between 3 cars. I want to come test drive a car, and make sure you're very transparent and clear and say, I'm not looking to buy this car today. Make sure you let them know that you're coming to test drive because you don't know exactly what you want yet. Now, in the scenario of you being able to know what you want, let's say you want an Audi S5 that is black. You know that for sure. Research in your local area, 50 to 100 miles, and find that exact car. Find one that looks good on pictures, the mileage is good, and the price is in a relatively good range for what you want. Reach out to the dealership specifically and say, I'm interested in this car. You would love to come test drive and see it. But first, you would like to go ahead and get some information on numbers and things of that nature. So you could say, I really like this car, I'm interested, I know what I want. If the car looks good in person, I would like to just see the numbers. So can you send that over before going into the dealership? Now, why this is a good thing in my opinion is because you can get an idea of the fees that the dealership is gonna add on. A lot of dealers could do some things like add a dealer markup. Now, we are coming out of a time in the car market in 2022, 2023, where dealers can add like a $5,000 market adjustment because it's hard to get cars. Cars are sitting at dealerships now and they're having more of an influx of inventory than they have in the past. And so it's a better time to buy right now. And so make sure you know those fees before going in there, and having that as a better idea to me is super smart. Something very important to know is that with a dealership and car salesman, their number one goal is to get you not to leave there without buying a car. They do not want you to walk out that door. When you walk out the door, the percentages of them selling you the car plummet immensely. It drops like crazy. So all they want to do is make sure that they keep you there, make sure that they get you to sign a deal today. So make sure through this entire process that you trying to keep emotion out of it, try to keep it in the process of objectively, I want this car, but this is my budget and this is what I'm gonna stick to. And so again, that's just to preface that now because there's a lot more we're gonna go into about that, but make sure that you know that that's their goal and be willing to walk out if it doesn't work out, especially if you're looking at multiple cars and want to test drive different cars. Make sure you test drive all those options before you buy the car. Now, one thing that would be good is if you research a dealership that may have a couple of these cars that you're interested in. Some, like if you go to a used car dealership, sometimes they'll have a lot of different cars that you may like a CarMax, for example, has a ton of different cars. Now, I'm not advocating for CarMax's cars. Sometimes they are bad cars and they're in bad shape, but just giving an example. So this next part is if you're trading in a vehicle. So most people may be just buying a car outright and not trading in a vehicle, but let's go through the process of how that works, as well as what's the best way to approach that. So when trading in a vehicle, there are pros and cons to this. When trading in a vehicle, they're gonna offer you a little bit less than you could get if you were to sell it privately, but you get a tax credit in most states, so you won't have to pay the full amount of tax because you get a credit back. Now, why is this? When you're buying a car, you have to pay whatever your state amount is. Let's say it's 7% sales tax on the car. On a $10,000 car, that is $700 that you're gonna have to add on top for taxes, which is a lot of money. Let's say you're trading in a car and it is $5,000. You have already paid sales tax on that $5,000 car. You're buying a $10,000 vehicle, you're trading in a $5,000 vehicle, you're only gonna be taxed on $5,000 worth because that amount is left over. You've already paid the sales tax on that original $5,000, so it'll save you around $350. Now, when you're going and scaling that up, it becomes a lot of money. When I'm buying a $100,000 car, sales tax on that is $7,000. But if I'm trading in a car that I pay $50,000 for, I'm only taxed on $50,000 of that. So it is advantageous, but most of the time, dealers are gonna offer low balls on your car, and there is some negotiating power, which is gonna be a part of the next process. So you're deciding if you're trading in your car or not. One of the best things to do before you go to the dealer, maybe even do it on the way to the dealer, is utilize websites and different places that will give you offers. What I'm talking about, CarMax, Carvana. Those are the two main ones that I look at. You can go to Carvana's website, input all the information about your car, and you can go ahead and see what they offer on your car, sight unseen. Now, this does work. I have a whole video on it. I did it with my Range Rover. They cut me a check for $38,000, and I walked away, deposited it in my bank, and that was it. Super simple, super easy. I dropped the car off of them. They made sure it ran and everything like I said. Now, CarMax most of the time has you come in person, but they have a no pressure kind of situation. They're not that like in your face, like you need to sell this car today. So you go into CarMax, you do that. With CarMax and Carvana, I believe it is 7 days that those offers are good. So you go into CarMax on the way to the dealership, they'll print you out a voucher that says, we're offering you $10,200 on your car, and this is good for 7 days. Now, you may not want to sell it to CarMax, but why this is good is you now have a thing that says that they will pay $10,200 for your car. you can use this at the dealership when they come at you with a lowball offer and be like, well, look, I already got an offer from CarMax. I can just go sell it to them. This exact example happened this past weekend. My mom was going to buy a new car. She went to CarMax. They offered her $3,000 more than the Audi dealership wanted to offer her. Now, they're not going to just match that number every time, but they will try to bridge that gap because you have that number, because they know there's a certain point with sales tax and things of that nature. Because if you don't trade in your vehicle and you just buy it outright, you obviously have to pay that sales tax of the full amount of the car. There's that difference there that they can try to make up. Also, before you go into the dealership, a good idea would be, if you have the idea of the car that you're looking at, to call your insurance to just make sure and check on what the rate change is going to be, because you may not even want to be looking at certain cars because of how much it would raise your insurance cost. If you're looking at like a Ford Mustang, your insurance could go up by double, triple what it was if you're just driving a regular four-door sedan. Now, at this point, you have an idea of what car you want, you have an idea of what your car value is that you may be trading in, or if you don't have a trade value, you don't need that. It's now time to go into the dealership. When you're going into the dealership and you have the intentions of buying, if you're going to buy, make sure you're setting aside a whole afternoon for this. One of the things that I like to say is the person that leaves the dealership quickly is not getting a good deal. If you're at that dealership for hours, it's gonna take some time to grind it out. They're gonna get the best deal. I've sat in dealerships for like literally 5 hours before I got a car. It takes a long time. Like I said, it's a good idea to talk to somebody before you go in, because this also works in a way of having somebody as a contact once you get into the dealership. They're not just gonna pawn you off to some random person. You've already made contact, you have a relationship with this person somewhat at this point, they know who you are. They also are looking at you of a more serious buyer than somebody who's just walking off the street. They know you're intentional with you reaching out and that you're interested in actually buying a car. In today's day and age with car dealerships, when you first get there, a lot of the people who are around could be sharks because they want your sale. It's, again, important to go in there with all your ducks in a row. But once you get into the process of starting to drive cars, that'll kind of play out naturally. You go, you want to test drive the car, they ask for your license and things of that nature. When you're there too, in the conversation, some things may come up like, are you a serious buyer? Are you looking to buy today? In most of those cases, or every time in that scenario, I would tell them you're not looking to buy today. It's a little bit difficult because you don't want to give them the impression that you're ready to buy, because then they become a lot more aggressive, in my opinion. I would just try to play it neutral. If you are ready to buy, especially if you're not, say you're not ready to buy, but don't give them the idea that you're ready to buy. A lot of the times, some words will come around like, if we can get the right number, are you gonna make a deal today? Those are things that are a little bit down the line, but just that might come up once you get there. As well as they might ask you if you're leasing, if you're going to buy it outright, or if you're gonna finance. Now, dealers don't like cash for the most part. You would think the opposite. The dealerships can make money off of financing. How this works is like, let's say you get approved on a car, they can get you approved at a like 6%. They're gonna come back and tell you that you got a 7.2 because they're gonna be taking that 1.2% themselves. That happens in the industry. They can say they can beat rates, they can do this. Have an idea of what you wanna do, but I would definitely just say that you're open to any of the options. I feel like you have a little bit more negotiating room at the end of the day when you say you're financing. Even if at the end you go, no, I'm paying cash, which they might get mad about, but at the end of the day, you're here to try to get a deal, so that would be my advice. Now, have an idea of what you want to do in your mind when you're going there as well. If cash is right for you, financing, it's all based on the person. For me, if a car is a certain price range, I finance it because I can do more with that money. So if a car, for the most part, is over like $80,000 to $100,000, I'm not buying that cash. Anything less, for me personally, I will, but that's because I can do that, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. Cars like this, like $200-something thousand, I personally don't want all that money sitting in a car. That money can be put elsewhere and make more money than just sitting in this car depreciating. That's just my personal opinion. It varies for everybody. A lot of people say don't buy a car unless you could buy it 10 times over cash. That's fine and all, but for me, regardless, I don't want that money sitting in a car like that. If you're going on a test drive, make sure you enjoy your time. Make sure you're focused in that you're intentional with the aspects of the car that you want. Is the ride smooth? Do you hear anything weird going on with the car? Most of the time, if you're buying from like a big dealership like Audi or something, like a used car, they do inspections on it to make sure that it's good. I recommend, if you're looking at cars, certified pre-owns are great options by dealerships because you get extended warranty and the car has been thoroughly looked over rather than a car that hasn't. And just keep in mind, if you go to a dealership, you drive a car, you don't like it, I know this should be known. You don't have to buy the car. Dealers and salesmen have a way of trying to like make the deal happen. This isn't all of them, but it's a lot of them. They have a way of trying to make the deal happen, and just know that you are in control. You make the decision, and that you don't have to make the decision that day if you don't want to. And it's better to make that clear from the beginning that you're like, look, I don't know if I want to buy today, and I don't think I want to buy today, so just keep that in mind. You can tell them like, I don't want to be pressured to buy a car today. I do that all the time. When I go in there, I'm like, look, I'm here to look at this car. I don't plan on buying it today, and I just want to let you know that I'm not trying to waste your time. I'm very interested in a car like this, but I don't know if I want this exact one, and that's why I'm here to check it out. Please don't pressure me to buy a car. You can say that, and I think some places will respect that. They may be annoyed at you, but it's you, it's your car. If you're about to spend $20,000, $30,000 on a car, it's your decision to make. You've decided that you want a car. You found the car you want. You know that it looks good, it drives good, it fits all the bill, you're ready to buy this car, and you're gonna finance whatever you're gonna do with it. Try to keep calm, cool, and collective in this part of the car buying process. Try not to show that you really want the car. The next thing I would do is say you're interested in the car and you wanna check out the numbers, but you're not committing to anything. Make sure you're not like, I'm ready to buy this car. This is where they'll ask you for trade-in or anything, and I think even if you got that CarMax value that you're happy with, I would definitely get a number for trade-in, just so you can get an idea, but I think it's smart regardless because they'll try to add it to the deal. So remember at the beginning of this, I told you call, get like a general number just to see the breakdown of the costs and all the different fees that they add on. Having this is really good because you can have an idea of where you want to be at price-wise going into the dealership. Now, if the car's like $20,000, let's say the out-the-door cost is $20,000. To me, regardless of anything, if it's a good deal on the car or not, I personally want to feel like I got a deal, so I'm going to get some sort of discount. I don't care if it's $500 or $1,000. But be realistic with where the number is that you want to be at. Research the car, make sure they're not overcharging. And a lot of places like AutoTrader have a KBB value to show you if it's like a fair value on the car, and make sure that you pay attention to that. Be realistic. Don't go in there if they're saying it's $20,000, be like, I want $10,000 right now. Don't waste their time by going in there and saying, hey, I want half off on this car. And just as much as you don't want to have your time wasted by these car salesmen, also be respectful of their time and don't waste their time if you're not actually trying to buy the car and acting like you're serious and then just walking away, because their time is also valuable. They're gonna bring you a deal sheet. This is gonna be a printed out sheet that essentially breaks down the numbers of everything. I can actually grab one. I actually do not have a sheet. I forgot that most of the time dealers will kind of get rid of that after you agree and everything on the deal. So here's what the deal sheet looks like. If you had a trade-in, they'll add that on there. You could they'll have the payoff and everything on there. So there's gonna be a loan payments portion of it if you're not paying cash that you're gonna look at. They're gonna have 60, 66 months, 72 months. All of that decision, that's more of a personal finance decision. It's not something that I'm gonna give like my thoughts on what every person should do because it varies person to person. But on the right side, what you're gonna see on there is market value selling price. That's gonna be the original price. This one, I don't know what some things are. Let's see, NAS theft, $395, total purchase, $29,190. Then they add the trade allowance, the trade difference, processing fee, tax, tag, net price, the payoff, and then the balance. There are a lot of things that you might see on here sometimes that are total BS that they add on. They might add like a ceramic coating protection on the car to make it to where it cleans easier. That's like an important thing that people like. Or they'll add like a paint protection film if it's a nice car like this. Those are not things that you need to pay. Those are add-ons that they add to try to get more money out of you. So be cognizant of that. Know what you have to pay. There are only a few things you have to pay. The car selling price, and most of the time they have like a processing fee from the dealer that's like a set price. That's usually like, I don't know, could be $5.95 or something like that. They have like a set price, but a lot of the time all the other things are just add-ons that you don't need. When you're going into the part where they bring out the financing, you're talking about the deal sheet, all of those numbers are based off of an average percentage rate of somebody's credit. They need to actually run your credit in order to get like an exact rate. Make sure they're not running your credit until you guys agree on everything. Don't let them run your credit before you agree on a deal that you're buying the car. You don't need a hard credit pull if you're not buying the car, in my opinion. Once you do one credit pull, and there's a little bit of a window that you can go and have to research cars and like apply for different cars if you didn't get them. So it's like that, if you go to a dealer and the next day you do another credit pull, it's not like you're doing 2 hard credit pulls. It's like, it's already open and being looked at. So just make sure that's the car you want and everything before they pull your credit, so you don't have that on your credit. When you're at the negotiating table, make sure if they ask you, what's the monthly payment number that you want to get to? What can we do to get a deal? Do not say a monthly payment number. Focus on the out the door price. That is the most important thing, because that is a solid number. They can manipulate interest rates and things of that nature to get you to a certain monthly payment to where they're gonna get a better deal on you. Focus on the out the door number, not the monthly payments. That does not matter, because that can be manipulated. So the next part is a back and forth between you and the dealer. They're gonna go and bring back a number. Let's say an example like this sheet right here, the balance is 29,977 and you want it to be at 28. They're gonna go back and say, I don't know if I can get that. I can't get anywhere close to that. Let me see what I can do. Let me go talk to the sales manager. They'll probably be gone for 15 minutes and they'll come back and they'll say, hey man, the dealer didn't really want to do this. I worked really hard on this and I got it to $29,000. I got you $900 off. That's a great deal. I worked really hard for that. I didn't even think he was gonna go this low. If your number is 28, which I think is like realistic on this, example here, there's a lot of varying factors to this. Stick to your guns. Say, no, 28's my number. I would say never take their first offer. If it's a car, like if they have a lot of the cars on the lot, they wanna sell a car, and especially if it's near the end of the month. Negotiate back and forth. Try to get your number, try to get more money off. They come back with the first offer. Even if the first offer is not bad, me personally, I'm asking for another $500 off on principle because I wanna get a deal. So think about that. This all varies in a situation thing on what you're buying and the trade and all that, but just keep that in mind. Now let's say you agreed on a price. You're happy, they're happy, you guys worked hard, you went back and forth. One thing that's annoying about this process is the back and forth is that it can take an hour or 2 hours sometimes, and they just have you there sitting, waiting, and that gets really annoying, and I've walked out of dealerships because of that. And they'll be like, no, come back, and it's like, you're wasting my time, I'm not sitting here for 5 hours. That's why you have to go in there with the intention you're gonna be there for a while, but also have the intention if you're not getting a price that you like and you feel like you're being taken advantage of, be like, I'm leaving. That is honestly one of the biggest negotiating factors. If you can get up and say you're leaving from a deal, that is when they're gonna try their hardest to keep you from leaving, because again, they want you to stay and they want to sell you a car. Now, if we're talking 2 years ago, dealerships could sell a car without even trying. Times have changed. Now they have to work for some deals again. It was a period where like people were begging to buy a car at MSRP and 5,000 over. Now it's not so much. You agree on a deal and you're happy with it, they're happy, whatever. Now they're gonna run your credit, try to get a percentage, and try to get you approved on that loan. Now, sometimes that loan may be too much money for you to get approved on, and the bank will ask you to put money down. This is not a thing that the dealer is trying to get you to do. At that point, they're not really gaining much from that. If the bank is asking you to put down $3,000 in order to do this, just know that that's a possibility, because you can't get approved for a certain amount because of monthly expenses and your income and things like that. But just know that that's a possibility and be prepared for that. And if you can't afford to do that, then you don't have to buy the car. That's something to think about also. Like, let's say they want you 10 grand down on a $20,000 car and you're like, I don't have 10 grand to put down. Maybe at that point, sit back and be like, look, I don't need this car right now. I'm gonna save up, wait, and get a car another day. Don't agree to some crazy terms of a 20% interest at 150 something months. I would advise against that. Definitely, interest rates are higher right now in general, but do not, like, if they're offering like an 18% interest rate because you have low credit or something, I personally would not take that, because you're never gonna be able to pay that car down at 18% interest. You're just paying interest every month. And that's a whole other conversation, but let's keep going. You get approved, let's go, we're excited. There's still one more part of this process where dealers try to add things in. You got approved, it's all good. Now you're going to the finance manager. Another thing, they're gonna make you wait 45 minutes before they get you into that room. Gets annoying. This happens a lot in the experience that I've had on many deals. So you're going to this room. Now, this finance manager on some dealerships, depending on what kind of car it is, if it's like a luxury car, This is where they will add in some options for you to purchase. I personally do not buy any of these options, but that's me personally. One thing they're gonna offer is a wheel and tire, like a lot of times they offer like a wheel and tire package. This is essentially something to where if you get a nail in your tire, they'll replace the tire. It adds on to your monthly amount that you're paying every month. Wheel and tire package, I don't do those. I just think that they're trying to add your monthly payment. Most of the time that stuff doesn't happen to me and I don't have to replace a tire in the time that I'm gonna own the car. So it's not really worth it to me. Some people that's worth it, for me it's not. And they're not trying to scam you on these things, and those are also negotiable. If you're interested in a wheel and tire package because you're worried about nails and things and popping a tire and you have bad luck and this and that, let's say it's a $2,000 package, you can say, no, I really don't want to. And they might come back and be like, hey, would you do it for $1,200? Those things are negotiable. So if you're interested, try to negotiate it at least. They'll offer you like paint protection film, tint on the car. A lot of those things they overcharge for. The paint protection film doesn't usually get offered unless it's like a high-end vehicle like these. Sometimes they'll add that into the deal because they already put something like that on the car. If they put a $3,000 fee on the car because they put that paint protection film on it, you can tell them that you don't want to pay for it, and they're gonna be like, well, it's already on the car, and be like, well, I don't want it. Take it off the car because you didn't ask for it and it's an additional fee. That is something you can do. Those things, I normally outsource it to somebody else and find somebody better. They're having somebody who might be doing it cheaper and not the best job. I try to look for the person that does the best job, and you'll probably pay less at the person who does a better job. So again, I usually decline all those, but it's up to you on that. Then lastly, you get through all that, it's time to sign the deal. Read the fine print, read every page. Make sure that the percentage rates for your financing are the same. Make sure they didn't add any fees and your monthly payment is now bumped up $100 a month. Make sure that you read the fine print and look through all of that. It is all very important and all very important to focus on. So good luck on car buying. If there's anything I missed, I'll try to respond to it in the comments, but I'll probably be making more videos like this because I have so much experience in this whole world. Car dealerships, I look at it as a battle. You're going in there and you're going to war, and who's gonna get the better deal is whoever is resilient enough to use their knowledge and information to get a better deal. So try to get a good deal. Don't let dealerships take advantage of you. And sorry to any dealerships if you're watching this, if I'm talking down on dealerships. It's just a lot of people get screwed on deals, and I don't want people to get taken advantage of because it's very easy for these dealerships to do it. So thank you for watching. If you thought any of this was helpful and informative, please leave a like on the video, and let me know any questions you have in the comments down below. Thanks.